Hey guys, Ian here from Final Line Gaming, and I'm now going to be running a raid team in World of Warcraft. So the shift in the videos on my channel is going to be a little significant more towards the World of Warcraft side of things. Now, the biggest thing I wanted to address in this video specifically, since I'm going to be running the raid team, is more or less what to expect while you're raiding with me as the raid leader. One of the big things we'll be going over with is things such as loot distribution, pugging, recruitment, all that fun stuff, and we'll be getting into that in the course of the video. But the first thing we're going to talk about more or less is what to expect before we even start raiding. First and foremost, you're all somewhat experienced. While you may not be experienced as I am, there are certain things that I, myself, and every other raiding guild in the World of Warcraft expect, and that's to make sure you're potted, make sure you have flasks, make sure you have your food buff. I will be running a add-on that will check those things, and you don't want to be that person that gets called out in the middle of the raid for not having your buff. So make sure you have those. While we're still on the topic of preparation, one of the big things I want to address is what sort of headspace you're in. Now, with progression raiding, you need to be able to understand that wipes are going to happen. Even some of the best guilds in the world, that do world first, server first, all that fun stuff, they wipe sometimes 20, 30, 40, 50 times on a boss before they eventually down it. So get that in your head right now, that wipes are going to happen. Don't let that discourage you. The next thing I want to talk to you about is more or less, it's raiding expectations. So when we're in a raid, I expect you to be able to hold your own. I am one of those people that I will gladly help you out, and I'll help you figure out your rotation if I can. I'm going to help you figure out what talents work best, what situations to do what in, if I can. But first and foremost, that's not going to happen in a raid. If your DPS, if you're geared out to 890 or above and you're doing 100k DPS, something's wrong. There's a time and a place to work on it, but that's not going to be in the raid. Don't take it personally when I tell you, get the fuck out, I'll work with you later. Now, staying in tune with some of the raiding expectations, one of the big things is making sure you're not standing in the fire. If you're standing in poop and I notice it, I'm going to fucking point it out to you. If you keep doing it, I'm going to remove you from the raid. That's one of the things that will stop us from being able to progress, and I'm not going to have it. Now, staying along with making sure you're in the right headspace and what to expect when you're raiding, one of the big things I've got is attitude. Now, in the event that maybe you cause a wipe, I'm going to come to you and I'm going to say, why did you die? And I'm going to help you understand it. If you have a good attitude, that's wonderful. Thank you. Because it's what we need. We need good attitudes. If you've got a negative attitude, you're not going to be here long. It's not going to work. I'm not going to allow it. Progression, and that's what we're here for. We're here to progress. And negative attitudes, negative Nellies, you're not welcome. We need more positive people. And that's one of the things we'll get into when we talk about recruiting, is how to recruit, which way to go about that, all that fun stuff. So the next thing we're going to talk about is what you need to do before the boss pulls, and that's researching the bosses and the trash. You need to know what we're going up against. We can't just go in blind. If you know the boss fights, even though you may zone out while I'm going through and explaining everything, you'll still be okay. Beyond that, we need to worry about call-out. Now, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to assign some role leads for both the healers, DPS, and tanks. When in regards to the healers, the healer class lead is going to initiate callouts for healing cooldowns. The DPS is going to initiate callouts for DPS cooldowns. The tanks are going to initiate for the tanks, etc., etc. And we just don't want to have an issue of too many cooks in the kitchen. So unless you're a role lead, you kind of need to shut the fuck up. The stuff that's going to actually happen in the raid, I want to go ahead and address one of the big issues in the room, and that's the issue people seem to have with pugging. First and foremost, we're going to have our guild group. You know who you are, you know who you're going to be, and as long as you're doing the right things, you're going to stay in the raid group, and it's going to be the guild group, That said, we're going to pug what we need. No ifs, ands, or buts. I don't give a damn. If we need to pug a healer, we're going to pug a healer. If we need a few more DPS, we're going to pug DPS. I don't want to hear bitching, moaning, and whining that we have to pug people. It's going to happen. It's our job to help make sure the environment's welcoming enough and they're having a good time that they may want to join us. The good players are going to want to stay and maybe even server transfer if that's the case. So now that we've got that out of the way, we're going to move into one of the things that can sometimes even destroy, and I've seen destroy multiple guilds, and that's the loot distribution. Now, I've seen a lot of guilds that use things such as DKP from back in the day. I've seen a lot of guilds that still use EPGP, and you'd be surprised there's even a lot of guilds that for some reason think personal loot's good, but it's not because it fucks with the distribution of tier pieces. Now, that being said, what we're going to be going with loot distribution is Loot Council. Not necessarily the add-on RC Loot Council, but we are going to be going with a council of 3 to 5 people that decide what loot goes where. Now, the only snag really tends to go in with tier pieces, as most issues tend to pop up. Tier pieces will have guildie preference. If you're in the guild group, you get preference for tier pieces over a pug. If it's a tier piece for, let's say we've got myself, I'm a warlock. If we've got a tier piece for me, it's going to end up going to me if I don't have it already. If it's a tier piece for me, and we've got another lock in the group, and that lock is a pug, if I don't want it, it's going to go to that pug. So preference goes to guildies for tier pieces. Now, beyond tier pieces, that's normal loot that'll drop from a boss anyway. We're talking, that's why we've got the Loot Council. The Loot Council will be unbiased. The discussions will be held open forum. The pugs that we have will be required to join the Discord server so they can be a part of this, and they understand we're not trying to fuck anyone out of loot. So the way the Loot Council will work when it comes to that is we'll have pretty much the ability to view and see what is an upgrade for who, and whoever gets the biggest upgrade out of said item will get said piece. Now, I'm sure there's going to be some issues with a few sticky situations, such as 2 people are wanting the same item. It's a same upgrade for both of them. In a case like that, it will come down to a roll, and the person with the highest number will end up getting the piece. Pug, guilty, it doesn't matter. And beyond that one situation, if you have any questions at all regarding loot distribution, feel free to come to me. I will answer them to the best of my ability. Now, I'm going to keep this fairly open-ended. That way I'm not going to mention any names or anything, because this is the way I want to run things. If things don't end up working out, I know guilds can sometimes just close up out of nowhere. I want to be prepared for whatever may happen in the future. I can just link this video to the new raid group or whatever the case may be. But we're going to go ahead and we're going to move to what I expect inside the raid and when we're dealing with raid mechanics. So let me go ahead and set this situation for you. We're sitting at a boss. We're in the middle of the room, say Scorpion. We're sitting there waiting. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to check pots. I'm going to check flasks. I'm going to check the food buff. I'm going to check your enchants. I'm going to check your gems. You need to make sure those things are taken care of. Again, this is before the raid. You need to have these things done. If you don't have these things done, I'm going to call you out on them in the middle of everybody, and you're going to feel like a big old dumbass. The next thing to look forward to after we go ahead and do the buff checks is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to explain boss mechanics. At this point, you need to mute your mic or find a way to stuff a fucking foot in your mouth. You need to shut the fuck up and you need to listen. Okay? The things I say are important. You're going to need to listen to them. If you don't, you're going to end up wiping, and then I'm going to call you out in the middle of the fucking raid, and I'm going to say, hey, what happened? Why'd you die? At that point, I'm going to do 2 things. I'm going to initiate a ready check, and after everyone's readied up, I'm going to initiate a pull timer. At that point, we're either going to fabulously fail or miraculously succeed. If we succeed, you will all get pats on the back, praise, you're the best fucking group in the world. If we fail, we're going to figure out why we failed, we're going to correct it, and we're going to go back in. We're going to do it again. If we have to if it takes 30 tries, hitting our heads up against a fucking brick wall to tear down the wall, that's what we're going to have to do. Prepare yourself for that. Now, trust me, we're almost done with the video. I know we're reaching a pretty lengthy bit. The next bit is we're just going to talk about mid-raid things to keep up with, things that you need to look out for. Again, like I said, with the pre-boss, I'm going to be doing that check before every boss. Need to make sure we're flasked, potted, enchanted, gemmed, all that fun stuff. Again, if it's not the case, you need to fix it, get it right. Otherwise, I'm going to call you out in the middle of it. Beyond that, it's going to be fun. We just need to keep a nice flow. We're going to have a good few hours. We're going to fucking tear through Nighthold. The only other thing I can really think of when it comes to mid-raid is just making sure you're not tunneling. A big issue you'll tend to have is you'll sit there and you'll get tunnel vision on simply doing DPS on the boss. You'll forget about the ads, etc., etc. Again, that's why we're doing callouts. You need to make sure you're listening to those things. If your DPS is too low, or if you're not switching to ads, etc., etc., we're going to have talks. And depending on how those talks go, you could either stay in the raid for the night, or you may end up finding yourself farming a reputation or two. So finally here we're getting to the last bit of the video, and that's going to go over recruiting. Now, one of the ways I want to recruit to make sure, one, we get wonderful people into the guild and we have wonderful people running the raids with us, is we're not advertising in trades yet. We're not one of those guilds. We never probably will be one of those guilds. When it comes to that, we want good people, not only good raiders, but people who have potential to be good raiders. And one of the ways we can do that is just simply by being friendly whenever we're running dungeons, whether it be Mythic Plus, or we're pugging through another raid, or joining another guild group, etc., etc. We just need to be honest, friendly, and if you see somebody, say you're running LFR, who you see is actually following mechanics, or you see is doing good DPS, send them a tell. See if they're a good person. At that point, if you have a recruit, you'll notify one of the officers, because the officers, we're going to be doing a actual interview with somebody to see if they would be a good fit, and at that point the people who are sitting in on the interview would vote either yes or no to letting them in. Again, it's not necessarily you have to be good or you have to be, the best. It's, are you a good fit? You could be the best fucking World of Warcraft player in the world, but we're a guild full of pretty nice people, and if you're an asshole, you're not going to be welcome. You could be, like I said, you could be fucking preach, whooping ass on them DPS meters, but if you're an asshole, you're not going to be welcome. Beyond that, that's really all I've got to say. You get your asses out there, start doing that big dick DPS, start tanking them fucking dungeons, let's fuck shit up, let's get things going. Alright everyone, thanks for watching the video. I really do hope you enjoy watching it as much as I loved making it. As always, don't forget to like the video if you liked it, hit dislike if you didn't, and remember to leave your thoughts in the comments below. Subscribe if you want to see more content like this, and always remember to have a splendid day.